Hello, all. Today we are going to talk about Chapter 9. And we see in Chapter 9 there are some financial ratios. What are the financial ratios? And we will talk about it. I am asking ChatGPT to write 14 financial ratios for my company, which is Amazon, and then compare these ratios with its competitors. And the competitor here, it found eBay as a competitor of Amazon. And we are going to compare them to see which one is doing better, which one is more profitable, which one has a better stocks, which one is smart in getting, its inventory, Therefore, we will talk about it. And I want the ChatGPT to explain these things and for me to understand what they are, which one is doing. And also at the end, I am asking ChatGPT to write something about depreciation. Then it went and found eBay as one of the Amazon, one of the competitors. One of the important ratios is for investors, those who want to buy stocks. They look at the PE. P means the price of the stocks. If I ask you what the price of stocks of Amazon is, I go here and I put stocks, Amazon. And as you see, it is P, it means price of the stocks, 228. I go and put 228 in here. What is earnings per share? That means that if Amazon has, let's say, 5 shares, we know it has millions of millions, but let's say it has 5 shares. And last year, it made $5. That means each share of Amazon earned $1. That means I divide 5 divided by 5 is $1. Therefore, market price of share was 228. I divide that by number 1. That answers would be 228. If the EPS was, let's say, 2, then 228 divided by 2 is half of 228, which is 114. This ratio, the lower the ratio, the better it is. You know why? That tells you that, first of all, earnings per share, whenever it goes up here, that means if each share earns $2 a year, that's good. As the owner of the share, you want, to your share to earn more. Therefore, anytime these numbers go up, this PE becomes less and less. That means that if we have 10 shares, let's say the total number of Amazon shares in the market, at the moment is 10. Earnings per share is 2. 10 divided by 2 is 5. Therefore, we say PE is 5 for Amazon. We calculate PE for eBay as well. We come and see eBay has a earnings per share, PE of 15. While Amazon is lower, the lower the PE, the better it is. That means that this market price hasn't gone up significantly. If it has not gone significantly, that means there is room for it to grow compared to its value. Therefore, the lower the PE, the better it is. Look at here, Amazon has a PE of 41 and eBay has a PE of $11 and PE of 11.16. Let's not forget, you shouldn't invest just based on these numbers. Although eBay shows in a much better shape, that means the stocks of eBay is not overpriced, because if the stocks of Amazon like a crazy goes up, we know that it is 228. Let's say some crazy things happen, suddenly this stock becomes 1,000 instead of 228. That means for no reason it went up without any justification. When we look at the PE of Amazon, in that case, we see that the PE of Amazon has gone way up. When it has gone way up, that means that you might say that, I don't want to buy that stock. Maybe it has gone up significantly compared to its competitor. Therefore, PE shows whether the stock is overpriced or, sometimes it goes up for different reasons. Now we have another ratio. market capitalization with total revenues. Market capitalization is that, imagine that Amazon has, each stock is 228. If we have 1 million shares of Amazon, we multiply 1 million by 228, becomes $228 million. That's the total value of the company of Amazon, which means if Elon Musk wants to buy company of Amazon, he has to come up with $228 million to buy. That is called market capitalization, the total, value of shares. Now, let me see. Here it is. We come back here. Total value of market price, that is where was that, market capitalization to total revenues, where therefore total revenues, how much Amazon had a revenue last year. How much Amazon had last year is a rough estimate. I would say it is not 1 trillion, but for simplicity I say 1 trillion. The market capitalization of Amazon is around 2 trillion. Therefore, if you divide 2 trillion market capitalization by 1 trillion, the answer is that PE for Amazon is what? 2. But in fact is what? 3.1, which means this is easy to calculate. The way you calculate it is you multiply 228. You know that Amazon shares were 228. You multiply it by the total number of shares that Amazon has outstanding. That is, for example, let's say 1 billion. You multiply 228, but suppose by 1 billion, it becomes, 228, for example, trillion or whatever. Therefore, you get this number. For eBay, you get this number. And both can have similar, suggesting that the investor value their sales comparably. Therefore, if you want to invest on each one, my guess is that the lower this number, the better it is. Do you know why? Because anytime the revenues go up, this ratio becomes smaller. Therefore, the smaller it becomes, the better it is. That means you have had more revenues. That means it's a better deal. If you have to buy one of them, you say, oh, I buy the one which has, the lower PS ratio, price to sales ratio. You come and look at book ratio. Therefore, Amazon constantly checks these numbers. What did they do this year compared to last year? Chief financial officers constantly, look at what happened, in 2025 compared to 2024, compared to future. How are they doing with respect to, their competitors? And also, is there any problem that they can understand from these numbers? These ratios are important to financial managers and are important to, accountants. And therefore, book value. I already sent you a video regarding book value, which I said that means this is the owner's equity. Do you remember I talked about, balance sheet? I said, therefore, we have this owner equity per share. Therefore, we talked owner equity, in accounting, we divide that number by total of the number of shares. Therefore, imagine that, that becomes, imagine 2 for Amazon, book value per share, and then market price per share. Price, we already have 228 for Amazon. Do you see that? Therefore, we divide that by book value, and I can easily calculate this one, because if you divide 228 by this one, you get book value per share, and then I can easily figure out. My recommendation is, here you go. I for simplicity, I assume this one is 9. I go to Excel, and here we go. This is Excel, and I click here, and I put equal sign, and here is equal sign, and say 228, I make it easy for you. I say 200 divided by, 10, for example. That is 20. Therefore, when I come back here, I have some ideas. So book value per share is 20. Therefore, 228 divided by 20 is 10. Therefore, as you see, we came very close and we understand what it means. Therefore, we want the book value per share. That means this one, the higher this number the better. Therefore, this one, the whole ratio is the higher, the better. If I ask you which one of these is in a better shape regarding this ratio, as we said, Amazon should be in a better shape because this is, this is higher. That means the book value is higher, and also their shares have not gone significantly up like crazy. If it goes up crazy, it might have gone for no good reason. Therefore, it is overpriced. Therefore, if you are an investor, you say, why this, or, this book value is in, price per book is so high, I am not going to buy their stocks, And then there is another one, which is called current ratios. We already talked about assets and liabilities. When we say current, that means these are the assets that are readily available. Imagine Amazon has a lot of cash in the bank and has a lot of buildings. If suddenly, current assets are the ones that are readily available, Amazon can quickly convert them to cash. Cash is the best one because anytime needs cash to pay for the employees, Amazon might not be able to instantly go and sell its building to pay off, its loan or to pay the salaries of the employees. Therefore, you always like to have current assets, and then you always have current liabilities. And the more current assets you have, it is better. That means you have a lot of cash and you are ready for anything happens. If Corona comes or something happens, you have a lot of cash to survive. Therefore, for different difficult things, you are ready for rainy days. The more current liabilities we have, it's not that great because current liabilities are bills that imagine that you don't want to have a lot of current liabilities. That means you don't want to have a lot of bills to be paid instantly. Suppose in the next month, if you think in the next 30 days, you have to pay a car loan, you have to pay, your electric bill, you have to pay. The more current liabilities we have, this ratio becomes less and less. Therefore, the higher this ratio, the better it is. Because when this ratio is high, means we have a lot of current assets and we have little current liabilities. The less this ratio, that is not a good idea. The meaning of it is that we have a lot of liabilities and less assets. Now let's see how Amazon is doing. I come here and look at here. Amazon is 1.9, which means when we think about 1.9 as 1, current assets means that Amazon has, imagine, $1 million in its bank account and also has $1 million of bills to pay. Do you see that? That's why when you divide 1 million by 1 million, you get 1.09. That's for Amazon. If you get into for eBay, you come to, instead of 1, you get to 2. That means eBay is in a better shape. Why? Because its current ratio is 2, which means it has a lot of more, this ratio, the assets that it has that are cash, divided by liabilities, it has more assets. The assets, current assets, it has twice as current liabilities, which means if it has to pay $1 million in bills quickly, it has $2 million in the bank, which shows it's a good shape. Therefore, the higher the current ratio, the better it is. In Amazon, even if you don't want to compare your company with eBay, you can look it horizontally across the several years. If next year your current ratio from 1.0 in Amazon becomes 2.0, you know that you have done great in terms of your current asset. That means if anything happens, you have enough cash to survive because your current ratio has gone up. Now, the debt to equity, equity ratio. This is an important one also. What happens is that the higher this number, that's not a good idea, that's bad. Because you see total liabilities, you like as a student, you want the to equity ratio to be as low as possible. Let me tell you what it means. Imagine you have a car, and on your car is $10,000, the value of your car. You owe $5,000 of it, and $5,000 of that car becomes yours because the car is $10,000. Therefore, the liabilities you have on the car is $5,000, And the equity that you have is 5,000. You divide 5,000 by 5,000, therefore debt to equity ratio means 1. That means for every $1 you owe, $1 owe the bank. Therefore, what we like to see is that this debt to equity is as low as possible. In your credit card, that's what you like to see. When you go and ask for your credit, score, they look at your, debt to equity, or you want to apply for a loan to buy a house. The finance manager in the bank looks at your debt to equity. It says that you have a credit card and you have $10,000, credit. Out of 10,000, you only used $1,000, and you have $9,000 left in that credit card. Therefore, you divide 1,000 by 10,000. That means you have a lot of things left. Although the money in the credit card is not considered as equity, but you have some ideas. Therefore, if you have a car, for example, your preference is that your liability to be as less as possible. Means you only owe 1,000, and your equity in the car, you want it to be 9,000. Then when we divide 1,000 by 9,000, let's say, by 10,000, for example, or 9,000, you get almost 10%. Therefore, which means 10%, that means that, you are not in trouble. That's a very low number. Therefore, you want your equity. We want to see that the equity of the company is as high as possible, liabilities as low as possible. This ratio, now let's look at Amazon. Amazon has the total liabilities of, the Amazon we don't have. For eBay, it has 1.2 in terms of liabilities, the DE ratio. That means that if we have here, we have 12 million here, we have 10 million here. When we divide 12 million by 10 million, we get 1.2. Therefore, that means that their total liabilities, are more than shareholders' equity. And we can look at, therefore, we come here, profit margin. You want your profit margin to be as high as possible. Margin means what percentage, and what is you sell gross profit divided by revenues. And that's a very interesting and important number. Let me give you an example. An example of it, think about it, that you have a restaurant. Then when you sell food, for example, when you sell food to your customers, your preference is that your revenues you want to be in compared to cost of goods sold. Cost of goods sold is the lower the cost, the you have a better profit, and therefore the gross profit that you have, you want this one to be as high as possible with respect to revenues. Let me tell you why. Imagine that you have a cab driver. You want to make sure that your expenses are as low as possible. Therefore, the lower the expenses, the higher this number. Do you see? Your gross profit goes higher and higher. Therefore, you want to make sure that this number is your gross profit margin is as high as possible. Suppose sometimes, let's say, hotels might have a good gross profit margin. I know that Amazon doesn't have a great gross profit margin, and because it has a lot of expenses, and usually it deals also with the cost of goods sold. And profit margin, the higher the profit margin, the better it is. Therefore, what it means is that, let me tell you something, lawyers have, a high profit margin. You know why? Because lawyers, as you know, are not like doctors. Doctors' profit margin are higher than the lawyers. And you know why? Because a doctor needs a lot of equipment in his or her, office. What are the equipments? I don't know. X-ray, do you see that? Therefore, the margin of profit in the lawyer's office, when a lawyer goes and you go to a lawyer, the lawyer doesn't have as much expenses. Do you see that? Compared to a restaurant, for example, a restaurant here has a lot. Therefore, a restaurant has a little profit margin from every $100 food that a restaurant here sells. Maybe only $5 goes to the pocket of the owner of the restaurant. The rest of them goes for what? Go for food, goes for, employees, for the equipment, for the kitchen or door cleaning. But a lawyer has a high profit margin. Why? Because he doesn't have or she doesn't have any expenses. So you go there and you see the lawyer charges you, let's say $100. Out of $100, $80 goes directly to the pocket of the lawyer. The $20 goes for the rent or something. Therefore, if I ask you what is the profit margin of a lawyer for that $100, do you know it is 80%? Why? Because the revenues for that lawyer was $100 in your case, and out of the revenue, net income of it was 88. Therefore, 80 divided by 100 is 80%. That's a net profit margin, Therefore, I can tell you clear net profit margin for the lawyer is 80%, while for the restaurant is 5%. Therefore, the higher the net profit margin, it is better. Therefore, we don't know about Amazon, but we know about eBay. eBay has 16.59. Therefore, every $100, that eBay makes, sells, out of that, $16 of it is net income. The rest of it, 84, most likely goes for its expenses. Do you see? Therefore, these are ratios. Return on assets, total asset. We already showed you the assets. We said assets equal to, the liability plus owner's equity. We know what assets of the companies are. I can go and to Google and say what is the assets of, what are the assets of Amazon. I can find out net income of Amazon. Amazon has a low ROA. It is not providing it. Now we go ROE, return on equity. When it says equity, means we have to have equity at the bottom. Therefore, shareholders' equity, we know what it is. Do you all remember in the first formula, assets equal liability plus shareholders' equity? We already have all of this. We can easily calculate it ourselves. We don't even need, that the ChatGPT does it for us. I can go to Google and ask Google, what is the net income of the Amazon in the past 1 year? I can have this one. What is the, shareholders' equity of Amazon in the past 1 year? I can have this one. I can divide them by multiply by 100. It's written, it's not available. And then another one is inventory turnover. What you want to see is that, let's say about Walmart. In Walmart, you know about car dealerships. Suppose one dealerships we have here in Moorefield is called, Markwood. Car dealership. And you don't want, the cars or inventories. You don't want these cars to sit in your lot for the whole year. You want to see this car is going out and you are selling it and more cars coming in. Therefore, the higher inventory turnover, the better it is. The average inventory that a car dealership, has, we calculated how much it is, and the cost of inventory, or COGS, they call it, cost of goods sold, COGS. Therefore, a Walmart, the Walmart, has to look at this number constantly to make sure it is not piling up a lot of inventories if it doesn't need, it wants to have as much to make sure it is not turning any customer away. That customer comes and doesn't see that thing that he or she needed, and at the same time, it doesn't want to have 1,000 bicycles in, if they cannot. Therefore, these are the ratios, sales, outstanding. Days sales outstanding is that you want, do you see here is written accounts receivable? You want, accounts receivable to come back to you as soon as possible, which is a reasonable thing. Why? Because if you are a chief financial officer, the people are supposed to return, what you sell them on credit the sooner sooner they pay their bills, the better you are. That's why the credit card companies are hoping when they send you a bill for their credit cards, the students who are smart, they wait until the last day. They say, oh, let's wait until the last day, keep their money. But the financial manager of that credit card company is hoping that you pay your money as soon as possible, just like a rent of landlord. Landlords always like you to pay on the first day of the month. The sooner you pay, the landlord is happier. But you pay it on the 5th, the landlord is, happy, but not very. Therefore, you want to make sure that the total credits that you sell on credits, at the bottom, this is as low as possible, total credits that you do sales, and accounts receivable to be as less as possible. They indicate they take payment for after sale. Do you see that? And a lower, a better. I don't know why it didn't, complete things. But this is just, I want you to get some sense of what these ratios are. The book is talking about them. And I want you to get this and copy them to Microsoft Word and highlight them. And in yellow, maybe on what you ask ChatGPT, make them in yellow. What ChatGPT explains, the important part of it that ChatGPT explains, make it in green, and also write some of your comments in blue. Suppose I will go and put this one in Word, and I say regarding this Amazon, which has a PE ratio of 41.4 with respect to eBay, which is 11.6, it seems that the PE of Amazon is much higher than eBay. Maybe Amazon is overpriced. You see, the price has gone up, but the price of eBay hasn't gone up. Maybe there is an opportunity for me to go and buy the stocks of eBay. If I have to choose one of these, maybe. But let's not forget, you shouldn't judge just based on that. And one reason is that this is much more than what you see in here. This is just one of the ratios. We have many other ratios to think about. How about inventory turnover? How about profit margin? There are many other ratios that we have to have in mind. I am going to go ahead and I am going to, for simplicity, I'm going to go and put this in the Word, and I am going to post it on the discussion board. And some of the students who know how to do it, and please write your comments as well under those ratios and post it there that you understood what these ratios mean. The more you understand this, the better financial manager you are, and you can use it in your own concept of life. Because suppose you say, in order to pay my landlord, maybe I shouldn't give my check 5-10 days early. I can keep it in my account and pay it. Of course, you have to make sure not to do it in such a way that you end up paying penalty. Therefore, these ratios, financial managers, accountants constantly look at these ratios. I want you to go through them and try to understand. And as I said, these are great ideas. I asked about I calculated. Okay, I said 10 ratios. I meant to write 12 ratio, more than 10, but that's okay. For now, you understood that. Let's go with 10 for now.